The notification popped up on my laptop while I was reviewing quarterly reports at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. My wife Natalie's iPad, synced to our family iCloud account, had just received a text message. "Can't wait to feel you again tomorrow. Same hotel?" I stared at those 12 words until they blurred. My coffee went cold in my hand. The sender's name was simply J, with a heart emoji. My name is Derek Walsh, and I'm a financial analyst for a mid-sized firm in Charlotte, North Carolina. 34 years old, married for 8 years to my college sweetheart, father to 2 beautiful daughters, Emma, age 6, and Lily, age 4. I coached Emma's soccer team on Saturdays. We had family dinners every night. We just booked a Disney trip for spring break. I thought I knew my life. The message sat there on my screen, innocent and devastating all at once. My first instinct was denial. Maybe it was a wrong number. Maybe it was spam. Maybe Natalie's account had been hacked. But that heart emoji next to the contact name told a different story. You don't save someone with a heart emoji by accident. I should have confronted her right then. She was upstairs, probably already asleep, her blonde hair spread across the pillow like it had been for nearly a decade of nights. Instead, I did what my analytical brain does best. I started gathering data. The iCloud sync was a feature we'd set up years ago for convenience, back when we had nothing to hide from each other. We could see each other's photos, messages, locations. It made coordinating pickups and schedules easier when you're juggling 2 careers and 2 kids. Now that transparency was about to reveal everything she'd been hiding, I opened the message thread. 3 months. The messages went back 3 months. My hands shook as I scrolled through weeks of deleted conversations that weren't quite deleted, living forever in Apple's cloud servers. The earlier messages were cautious, almost professional. Then they got friendlier, then flirtatious, then explicit in ways that made my stomach turn. "Your husband working late again?" "He's always working, or with the kids. I don't even think he sees me anymore." "I see you. God, do I see you?" I wanted to vomit. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run upstairs and shake her awake and demand answers. Instead, I opened a new folder on my desktop and started taking screenshots. The man's name was Jason Whitmore. I found it buried in one of the earlier conversations where Natalie had saved his contact information. A quick LinkedIn search told me everything I needed to know. He was a sales representative for one of our suppliers at Natalie's company. 38, divorced, living in a downtown Charlotte condo that probably cost more than our mortgage. They'd met at a conference in Atlanta back in September. She'd told me about that trip. 3 days of boring presentations and networking dinners. She'd called me every night, told me she missed me and the girls, complained about the hotel's uncomfortable mattress. She'd been sharing a different bed entirely. The messages detailed everything. The first kiss in the hotel bar. The first time they'd slept together, that same night, while I was home giving the girls their baths and reading bedtime stories. The guilt she'd felt for approximately 48 hours before the next time. The hotel they used here in Charlotte, a Marriott near the airport, always on Thursday afternoons when I thought she was at her monthly district meetings. Tomorrow was Thursday. I looked at the calendar. Sure enough, district meeting 2 to 5 p.m. was blocked off in her schedule. We'd synced our calendars too, another convenience that had turned into evidence. My wife of 8 years was planning to sleep with another man in approximately 14 hours. The logical part of my brain took over, the part that had earned me a reputation for thoroughness at work. I couldn't just screenshot text messages. I needed more. I needed irrefutable proof that would stand up in court, because North Carolina is one of the few states where adultery still matters in divorce proceedings. I started a detailed document, time-stamping everything. I downloaded our cell phone records from Verizon. We had a family plan, which meant I could access her call logs. Hundreds of calls to Jason's number, some lasting 45 minutes or more, always during times I thought she was talking to her mother or her sister. I checked our credit card statements. There it was. Charges I'd never noticed before because I'd trusted her to manage her own card. Lingerie from stores she never wore for me. Dinners at restaurants we'd never been to together. A charge from the Marriott for $147.32 dated 3 weeks ago, buried among grocery store receipts and gas station purchases. By 3 in the morning, I had assembled a comprehensive timeline of my wife's affair. Every hotel visit. Every lunch that ran too long. Every evening she'd claimed to be working late. The nights she'd come home and kissed me hello, tasting like lies and mouthwash. The nights she'd made love to me, probably thinking of him. That thought broke something inside me. I closed my laptop and sat in the darkness of my home office, surrounded by family photos on the walls. Our wedding day, both of us so young and stupid with happiness. The girls as newborns, Natalie glowing with maternal pride. Last Christmas, all 4 of us in matching pajamas, grinning at the camera like we were the perfect American family. What a joke! I heard footsteps on the stairs. My heart seized. It was 3:17 a.m. Why was she awake? I closed the laptop screen to half brightness and minimized the message window. The footsteps on the stairs were slow, deliberate, not the rushed pace of someone who'd forgotten something or needed water. She was checking on me. Derek? Her voice floated down the hallway, soft and concerned. You still up? I pulled up a spreadsheet, actual work, quarterly projections I'd been avoiding, and made sure the document filled the screen. My folder of evidence sat minimized in the taskbar, a single innocent icon among dozens. Yeah, in here. I kept my voice level, tired, but not suspicious. Natalie appeared in the doorway wearing one of my old college t-shirts, her blonde hair messy from the pillow. She looked exactly like the woman I'd fallen in love with at 22. The woman who didn't exist anymore. It's after 3, she said, leaning against the doorframe. You okay? Henderson account. The lie came easily. I gestured at the screen. Numbers aren't adding up. Wanted to sort it before the morning meeting. She walked behind my chair, and every muscle in my body tensed. Her hand touched my shoulder, and I had to force myself not to flinch. You work too hard, she said, squeezing gently. Her other hand reached for the laptop touchpad. I shifted, blocking her view. Almost done. Go back to bed. Want me to make coffee? Keep you company? The offer was so normal, so wife-like, that for a split second I wondered if I'd imagined everything. If maybe I'd misread the messages, constructed an entire conspiracy from innocent texts between colleagues. Then I caught the scent. Faint, but there, a different laundry detergent on her shirt. She'd changed the sheets today. Wednesday, not her usual Monday routine, because tomorrow was Thursday. I'm good, I said. Really, just need another 20 minutes. She hesitated, and I could feel her eyes on the back of my head. Calculating. Wondering why I was really awake at 3:17 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Okay. She kissed the top of my head, and the casual intimacy of it made my stomach turn. Don't stay up too late. I listened to her footsteps retreat, the stairs creaking, the bedroom door clicking shut. Waited 5 full minutes before I opened the evidence folder again. She was suspicious. Or maybe just surprised. Either way, I'd tipped my hand by being awake. I needed to be smarter. Thursday morning arrived with cruel normalcy. Emma spilled orange juice on her uniform. Lily couldn't find her left shoe. Natalie made pancakes shaped like Mickey Mouse, singing along to the radio while she flipped them. I ate breakfast with my family and tasted nothing. Big day? I asked Natalie, keeping my tone light. You mentioned a district meeting? She didn't even flinch. Yeah, probably running until 5 or 6. Traffic's going to be awful coming back. Where's it at again? Corporate Center off I-77. She wiped syrup from Lily's chin. Same place as last month. The Marriott was off I-77, 15 minutes from the corporate center, close enough to make the lie plausible. Want me to grab the girls from school? I offered. Since you'll be late? That'd be great. She smiled at me, grateful and loving. You're the best. I drove Emma and Lily to school, kissed them goodbye, and called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. My boss didn't question it. I was the guy who came in with the flu, who checked emails on vacation. One sick day was nothing. I had 14 hours until the meeting at the Marriott. I spent them preparing. The hotel parking lot was half full when I arrived at 1:47 p.m. I'd parked my Accord at a shopping center 2 blocks away and walked, keeping my face down. Natalie knew my car. Jason probably did too, from company parking lots. I'd dressed differently than usual. Jeans instead of slacks, a Tar Heels baseball cap pulled low, sunglasses despite the overcast sky. Not a disguise exactly, but enough to avoid immediate recognition. The Marriott lobby was generic corporate hospitality. Business travelers on laptops, a family checking in with rolling suitcases, a bored clerk behind the desk. I bought a newspaper from the gift shop and settled into an armchair near the elevators with a clear view of the entrance. At 2:14 p.m., Jason Whitmore walked through the automatic doors. I recognized him from his LinkedIn photo, but seeing him in person was different. Taller than I'd expected, maybe 6'2". Athletic build, expensive suit, the kind of easy confidence that came from closing sales and seducing married women. He walked straight to the elevators without checking in. Already had a key. This was routine for them. My hands clenched around the newspaper, crumpling the sports section. I forced myself to breathe slowly, to stay seated. Not yet. At 2:31 p.m., Natalie arrived. She'd changed clothes since this morning. The conservative blouse and slacks she'd worn to the district meeting were gone, replaced by a dark blue dress I'd never seen before. Her hair was down, makeup freshly applied. She looked beautiful. She looked like she was going on a date. I watched my wife of 8 years walk across that lobby with purpose, with anticipation. Watched her press the elevator button and check her phone while she waited. She was smiling. The elevator doors opened. She stepped inside. I counted to 30, then followed. The elevator indicator showed her car stopping at the 4th floor. I took the stairs, climbing 2 at a time, my heart hammering against my ribs. This was stupid, reckless. I should have stayed in the lobby, should have just documented her arrival and left. But I needed to see it. Needed to know for certain. The 4th floor hallway was empty and silent, decorated in the same beige neutrality as every other Marriott in America. I moved quietly on the carpeted floor, checking room numbers. 417, 419, 421. Voices. Low and muffled, coming from 423. I stopped 3 doors away, pressing myself against the wall. I couldn't make out words, but I recognized Natalie's laugh. Light and happy, the way she used to laugh with me. A door opened somewhere behind me. I walked quickly toward the stairwell, head down. Just another guest heading to his room. Didn't look back until I was through the door and descending to the lobby. My phone buzzed. A text from Natalie. Meeting's running long. Might be closer to 7 before I'm home. Can you handle dinner? I stared at the message. She was texting me from his hotel room. Probably naked, probably in his bed, taking 30 seconds to maintain her cover story. I typed back, "No problem. Be safe." Added a heart emoji, because that's what the old Derek would have done. I didn't go home. Couldn't face the empty house, the girls' toys scattered across the living room, the family photos on every wall documenting a marriage that had been dead for months without me knowing. Instead, I drove to my brother's place across town. Tyler opened the door in gym shorts and a stained t-shirt, beer in hand, clearly surprised by the midday visit. "You look like hell," he said. "Need to talk. You busy?" He stepped aside, letting me in. His apartment was typical bachelor chaos. Pizza boxes, video game controllers, laundry that might or might not be clean piled on the couch. "What's going on?" Tyler cleared space for me to sit. "You never just show up." I told him everything. The late-night discovery, the messages, the evidence I'd compiled, the hotel. Watching Natalie walk into that room wearing a dress I'd never seen. Tyler listened without interrupting, his expression darkening with each detail. "Jesus Christ," he said when I finished. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know." The admission felt like failure. I always knew what to do. I was the planner, the analyst, the guy with spreadsheets and contingencies. I have evidence. Enough for the divorce attorney. North Carolina's an at-fault state, so her adultery matters for property division. But I keep thinking I should confront her first. Give her a chance to explain. Explain what? Tyler's voice was sharp. You saw the messages. You watched her walk into his hotel room. What explanation makes that okay? He was right. I knew he was right. The girls, I said quietly. The girls deserve better than watching their mother cheat on their father. Tyler handed me a beer I didn't ask for. I took it anyway. "So, what's the plan?" he asked, settling into the chair across from me. "You going to confront her tonight?" I shook my head. "Not yet." "Why not? You've got everything you need. The texts, the photos, the hotel." "Because she mentioned a book club." Tyler blinked. "What?" I pulled out my phone and scrolled back through Natalie's calendar. 3 weeks ago, she said she joined a book club. Tuesday and Thursday evenings, 7 to 9. I thought it was good for her, you know? Getting out of the house, making friends. "Let me guess. There's no book club." "Oh, there's a book club." I showed him the Facebook group. "Oakmont Neighborhood Book Club. 43 members. They meet at the community center." Tyler frowned. "Then what?" "She's been going. I checked her location history before everything got deleted. She's actually at the community center on those nights." "I don't follow." I took a long drink. Jason's not the only one. Or maybe he is, but she's using the book club as cover. Either way, I need to know what's really happening at those meetings. "Derek, you already caught her at a hotel with—" "I need everything, Tyler. Every lie. Every person who helped her. Every neighbor who smiled at me while knowing what she was doing." I felt my jaw tighten. "I'm not confronting her until I know exactly how deep this goes." He studied me for a moment. "You're scaring me a little bit." "Good." The Oakmont Neighborhood Book Club met every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. in the community center's smaller conference room. I knew because I'd driven past it 17 times over the past 3 weeks, while Natalie was supposedly inside discussing whatever book they'd chosen. It was Thursday. Natalie had left the house at 6:52 p.m., wearing jeans and a cream-colored sweater, carrying the same canvas tote bag she always brought. Emma and Lily were at my mom's for a sleepover. Natalie's idea, she'd said, so she wouldn't have to rush home from her meeting. I'd told her I had late work to finish. Instead, I sat in my car across from the community center at 7:34 p.m., watching people filter in and out of the building. The book club had started half an hour ago. Through the ground floor windows, I could see roughly 20 women seated in a circle, books in their laps. Natalie sat between 2 women I didn't recognize, laughing at something someone said. She looked relaxed. Happy. I felt sick. At 8:15 p.m., she stood and excused herself. I watched her walk down the hallway toward the restrooms, checking her phone as she went. Then she kept walking. Past the restrooms. Past the main entrance. Down a side corridor I hadn't noticed before. I got out of my car. The community center had multiple entrances. I'd forgotten that. The side door led to a smaller parking lot, mostly empty except for 3 cars. As I rounded the corner, I saw Natalie standing beside a silver Lexus, talking to a man I didn't recognize. Not Jason. Someone else. He was maybe 40, tall, wearing business casual attire. They stood close together, her hand on his arm, both of them smiling. He said something that made her laugh. That same laugh I used to think was just for me. And then he leaned down and kissed her. Not a long kiss. Not passionate. Familiar. Comfortable. Like they'd done it 100 times before. I pulled out my phone and took 3 photos before my hands started shaking too badly to hold it steady. They talked for another minute. He handed her something. An envelope, maybe, or a small package, I couldn't tell. And she tucked it into her tote bag. Another quick kiss, and then she was walking back toward the main entrance, checking her watch. The man got into the Lexus and drove away. I photographed his license plate. I didn't follow her home. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, breathing, thinking, trying to process what I'd just seen. Then I went inside. The book club was still in session. Through the conference room's glass door, I could see Natalie back in her seat, nodding along to whatever discussion was happening. The book in her lap looked pristine, like it had never been opened. I knocked. Everyone looked up. Natalie's face went through 3 expressions in 2 seconds. Surprise, confusion, panic. She recovered quickly, smiling as she stood and came to the door. "Derek, what are you doing here?" "Finished work early." I kept my voice light, friendly. "Thought I'd surprise you. Maybe we could grab dinner after?" Several women were watching us now. Natalie's smile didn't waver, but her eyes went cold. "That's so sweet, but we're right in the middle of discussing Chapter 7. Could you give me another half hour?" "Sure, I'll wait in the lobby." "Actually, why don't you head home? I drove separately, remember? I'll meet you there at 9. I glanced past her at the circle of women. Most had returned to their books, but 2 were still watching us with expressions I couldn't quite read. "I don't mind waiting," I said. "Derek?" Her voice dropped. "You're being weird. I'll see you at home." She closed the door. I stood there for a moment, then walked to the lobby and sat down where I could see the conference room entrance. At 8:47 p.m., the meeting broke up. Women filed out in small groups, chatting and laughing. Natalie emerged with 2 others, still deep in conversation. She didn't look my direction. I waited until she'd left the building, then approached one of the stragglers, a woman in her 50s with short gray hair and reading glasses hanging from a chain around her neck. "Excuse me, I'm Derek Walsh. My wife Natalie just left?" She smiled. "Oh yes, Natalie, she's wonderful. Are you here to pick her up?" "Actually, I had a question. How long has she been coming to the club?" The smile faltered slightly. "Oh, I'd say maybe 6 weeks. She joined right after Labor Day, I think." "And does she participate much in the discussions?" "Well," the woman glanced toward the parking lot. "She's very nice, always friendly. But between you and me, I don't think she's actually reading the books. Last week we discussed The Nightingale, and she didn't seem to know basic plot points." "Huh." I kept my expression neutral. "Does she ever leave early, or step out during meetings?" Now the woman looked uncomfortable. "I really shouldn't. Please, it's important." She sighed. "Sometimes she takes phone calls, or says she needs to run to her car for something. But lots of people do that. We're pretty casual about it." "How often?" "Every meeting, I'd say. Maybe twice per meeting. 10, 15 minutes at a time." She adjusted her glasses. "Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine. Thank you for your time." I tried 2 more women before they dispersed. Same story. Natalie was friendly but disengaged, frequently stepped out, never seemed to actually read the books. One of them, a younger woman, maybe 30, hesitated before adding, "I saw her in the parking lot once, talking to some guy. I figured it was just a friend or something, but they seemed pretty close." "When was this?" 2 weeks ago, Thursday night." "What did he look like?" She described the man I'd seen tonight. Not Jason Whitmore, someone else entirely. I ran the Lexus plate as soon as I got home. It took me 40 minutes and 3 different database searches. One through a buddy who worked in insurance, another through a skip tracing service I'd used for work. But I got a name. Brandon Mitchell. 42 years old. Marketing director at a firm in uptown Charlotte. Divorced 3 years ago. No kids. LinkedIn showed he'd worked at the same company where Natalie had attended that September conference. I pulled up his Facebook profile. Privacy settings were tight, but his profile picture showed him standing in front of a downtown condo building I recognized. The same building where Jason Whitmore lived, according to my earlier research. Same building. I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen. How many were there? My phone buzzed. Natalie, texting from the driveway. Home. Thanks for understanding about tonight. Love you. I heard her car door slam, her keys in the lock. I closed my laptop and went downstairs to greet my wife. The book club members scattered like startled birds after my appearance. I watched from my car as they climbed into their SUVs and sedans, headlights cutting through the November darkness. Natalie stayed inside the community center for another 12 minutes. I timed it, before emerging alone, her face illuminated by her phone screen. She didn't look toward my car, didn't even glance around the parking lot. I followed her home from 3 cars back, watching her brake lights at every stop sign, her left turn signal blinking at Oak Street. Normal. Routine. Like she hadn't just been caught in a web of lies that kept expanding every time I pulled a thread. She beat me home by 4 minutes. When I walked through the garage door, she was already upstairs. I could hear water running, the master bathroom sink. Washing off evidence, probably. Reapplying makeup. Getting her story straight. I sat at the kitchen island and opened my phone. The voice recording from tonight was already uploaded to my secure cloud folder, filed under Book Club 1114. 93 minutes of audio. I'd listen to it later, pull out the relevant admissions from Rachel and Jennifer and the others. But first, I needed to solve the Brandon Mitchell problem. I opened LinkedIn on my laptop. Brandon's profile showed him as a senior account executive at Meridian Financial Solutions. His company photo showed a guy in his early 40s, salt and pepper hair, expensive suit. His location, Charlotte metro area. I clicked through to Meridian's website. They specialized in wealth management and estate planning. High net worth clients. The kind of operation that operated out of corner offices in uptown Charlotte, not strip mall conference rooms. Their office address, 201 South Tryon Street. 3rd floor. I pulled up Google Maps and dropped a pin. The building was 6 blocks from Jason Whitmore's condo at the Metropolitan. 6 blocks. My phone buzzed. A text from my brother Kevin. Still on for Saturday. Emma's been asking about go-karts all week. I'd forgotten. We'd planned a family outing. Kevin, his wife Amy, their son Tyler, and my girls. Go-karts and mini-golf at Frankie's Fun Park. Yeah, we're good, I typed back. 10 a.m.? Perfect. See you then. I set the phone down and stared at the dark window over the sink, seeing my reflection superimposed over the backyard. A man sitting alone in his kitchen at 9:47 p.m., compiling evidence of his wife's infidelity like he was preparing a quarterly earnings report. Footsteps on the stairs. Natalie appeared in yoga pants and an oversized sweatshirt, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. Fresh-faced. Innocent. Hey, she said, opening the refrigerator. How was your evening? Fine. Caught up on some work emails. I kept my voice neutral. How was book club? She grabbed a bottle of water, twisted the cap. Good. We're reading this mystery novel, really twisty. I can barely keep track of all the plot lines. The irony wasn't lost on me. What's it called? She hesitated for half a second. The Silent Patient. Have you heard of it? I had. It was a bestseller from a few years ago. Safe answer. Probably something one of the other members had actually mentioned. Sounds interesting, I said. What's it about? A woman who stops speaking after she's accused of murdering her husband. Natalie took a sip of water, leaning against the counter. The therapist tries to get her to talk, figure out what really happened. And does she? Talk, I mean. I'm only halfway through, she smiled. No spoilers. I nodded slowly. I stopped by tonight, actually. Wanted to surprise you. Maybe grab dinner after. Her smile froze. You... what? I drove over to the community center, but when I got there, Rachel said you'd stepped out. Said you do that a lot, actually. The water bottle crinkled in her grip. I went to my car to take a call. Work stuff. Brandon from our vendor relations department needed to go over some contract details. There it was. Brandon's name, dropped casually into the conversation like it meant nothing. Brandon, I repeated. That's the guy I saw you talking to in the parking lot. You saw... She caught herself. Yeah. He was driving by, saw my car, stopped to chat about the contract. Total coincidence. What kind of contract? Software licensing. Really boring stuff. She waved her hand dismissively. Why were you checking up on me? I let the accusation hang in the air for a moment. I wasn't checking up. I wanted to surprise my wife. Take her to dinner. Is that a crime? No, of course not. She softened her tone. You've been acting weird lately, Derek. Distant. I'm worried about you. The deflection was textbook. Turn it around. Make me the problem. I'm fine, I said. Just busy with work. Year-end reviews coming up. Right. She set down the water bottle. I'm going to check on the girls, then head to bed. You coming up? In a bit. Want to finish some stuff down here first? She kissed the top of my head as she passed, a gesture that once meant everything, now just theater, and disappeared upstairs. I waited until I heard the bedroom door close, then opened my laptop again. Meridian Financial Solutions had a staff directory on their website. I scrolled through the photos until I found Brandon Mitchell's full profile. His bio mentioned 15 years in wealth management, a degree from UNC Chapel Hill, specializations in estate planning and trust administration. Trust administration. I sat back in my chair, pieces clicking together. Natalie worked in vendor relations at her company. Brandon worked in wealth management. What if this wasn't just another affair? What if there was something else going on? Something financial? I opened our bank accounts, something I did regularly anyway as part of managing our household finances. Checking, savings, Emma and Lily's college funds. Everything looked normal. No unusual withdrawals, no mysterious transfers. But Natalie had her own checking account from before we were married. We'd kept separate accounts and one joint account, a system that had worked fine for 8 years. I had access to view her account through our linked bank profile, but I rarely looked at it. Her paycheck went in. Her personal expenses came out. Simple. I pulled up her transaction history. The most recent entries were normal: Starbucks, Target, gas stations. But scrolling back through October and September, I found a pattern. Every 2 weeks, a withdrawal for $500 in cash. Always on Fridays. Always from the same ATM on South Tryon Street. The same street where Brandon Mitchell worked. 8 withdrawals total. $4,000 in cash over 2 months. I screenshotted every transaction, saved them to my evidence folder. My phone buzzed again. This time, an email notification. I almost ignored it, but the sender name caught my attention. Jason Whitmore. My stomach dropped. I opened the email. Derek, we need to talk. Tomorrow, 1 p.m., Amelie's French Bakery on Park Road. Come alone. This is about Natalie. I read it 3 times, my pulse hammering in my ears. Jason Whitmore. The affair partner I'd been tracking for weeks. The man who'd been sleeping with my wife every Thursday afternoon at the Marriott. He wanted to meet. He knew I knew. I checked the email header, verified it was actually from Jason's address, the same one I'd found on LinkedIn, cross-referenced with his company email. Legitimate. How did he get my email? How did he know I'd discovered the affair? Unless Natalie told him. Unless she'd warned him after I showed up at book club tonight, after I mentioned seeing her with Brandon, after she realized I was putting pieces together. Or unless Jason had figured it out himself somehow. Maybe he'd seen me following them. Maybe I hadn't been as careful as I thought. I typed a response. I'll be there. Sent it before I could second-guess myself. Upstairs, the house was quiet. Natalie would be in bed by now, probably texting one or both of her men, coordinating stories, managing the damage from tonight. I opened a new document on my laptop and started typing. Timeline. Thursday, November 14th. 7:15 p.m. Arrived at book club. Confronted Natalie. 7:18 p.m. Observed. Brandon Mitchell in parking lot. Envelope exchange. 7:45 p.m. Interviewed book club members. Confirmed Natalie's absences. 9:30 p.m. Home. Natalie mentions Brandon from vendor relations. 9:52 p.m. Email from Jason Whitmore requesting meeting. Evidence collected. Voice recording of book club members, 93 minutes. $4,000 in cash withdrawals, pattern established. Brandon Mitchell connection to Meridian Financial. Jason Whitmore email, meeting request. Next steps. Meet Jason Whitmore, 1 p.m. tomorrow. Research Meridian Financial Solutions. Deeper. Check Natalie's personal account for other irregularities. Determine connection between Brandon and financial transactions. I saved the document and closed my laptop. Tomorrow at 1 p.m., I'd sit across from the man who'd been sleeping with my wife and find out exactly what he wanted to tell me. The email from Jason Whitmore sat in my inbox like a loaded gun. Derek, we need to talk. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. Common Market on South End. Come alone. There are things you need to know about Natalie that go beyond what you've discovered. JW. I read it 17 times between midnight and dawn. Didn't sleep. Couldn't. Instead, I sat in my office compiling everything into a master timeline, cross-referencing Natalie's location data from Find My iPhone with the cash withdrawals, the hotel visits, the book club meetings that never were. The pattern that emerged made my stomach turn. Thursday afternoons, Jason Whitmore at the Marriott. That was consistent, documented, proven. Tuesday evenings, book club with Brandon Mitchell. Except the book club met at the library, and Natalie was meeting Brandon in parking lots, coffee shops, his car. But there were gaps. Unexplained absences on Monday mornings. Friday lunches that stretched to 3 hours. Weekend grocery runs that took 90 minutes for $47 worth of purchases. I pulled up her credit card statements again, filtering by merchant category. Gas stations appeared with disturbing frequency. Always the same Shell station off exit 52, 30 minutes outside Charlotte in the opposite direction from her office, our house, anywhere she had legitimate reason to be. 12 fill-ups in 2 months. Natalie drove a Camry with a 12-gallon tank and got decent mileage. She shouldn't need gas more than once a week for her normal routine. I mapped the Shell station. Rural area, mostly farmland and scattered residential developments. I ran a property search for the surrounding zip code, filtering for recent rentals. Nothing jumped out immediately, but I saved the coordinates. At 6:47 a.m., Natalie's alarm went off upstairs. I heard her moving around, showering, getting ready for another day of lies. The girls would wake soon. I'd have to sit across from my wife at breakfast, watch her butter toast and pack lunches and kiss our daughters goodbye, knowing what I knew. The performance was getting harder. I deleted my browser history, closed all the tabs, locked my evidence folder with a password she'd never guess. Then I went upstairs and made coffee like nothing had changed. "You're up early," Natalie said, appearing in yoga pants and a fitted top, hair still damp. She looked fresh, rested, beautiful. I wanted to vomit. Couldn't sleep. Big presentation today. The lie came easily now. I'd learned from the best. She poured coffee, added cream, didn't meet my eyes. "I've got that district meeting after work. Might be late again." "Thursday district meeting?" I kept my voice neutral, curious but not suspicious. "They moved it. Some scheduling conflict." She sipped her coffee, scrolled through her phone. "Should be home by 8. There was no district meeting. There never had been. I'd called her company's main office 2 days ago, posed as a vendor trying to schedule a presentation. The helpful receptionist confirmed district meetings occurred monthly on the first Wednesday, always at the corporate office downtown, always ending by 5 p.m. Natalie's meetings were scheduled around Jason Whitmore's availability. "Want me to pick up dinner?" I asked. "That'd be great. Maybe that Thai place the girls like?" Domestic bliss. Planning takeout while she planned to screw her boyfriend at a hotel I was still paying for through our joint credit card. The girls thundered downstairs and the morning dissolved into the usual chaos. Breakfast, backpacks, lost shoes, Emma's spelling homework that she forgot to finish. Natalie kissed them both. Kissed me on the cheek with those same lips that had been on Brandon Mitchell 3 nights ago, and headed out to her car. I watched through the kitchen window as she backed out of the driveway, phone already pressed to her ear. Calling Jason, probably. Or Brandon. Or whoever else I hadn't discovered yet. I dropped the girls at school and called in sick to work. Sent my boss a message about a stomach bug, apologized for the short notice. He told me to feel better, take care of myself. If he only knew. At 2:47 p.m. I walked into Common Market on South End. The place was busy with the lunch crowd lingering over craft beers and gourmet sandwiches. I spotted Jason immediately. Tall, athletic build, expensive watch, sitting at a corner table with clear sightlines to the entrance. He stood when he saw me. Didn't offer his hand. "Derek, thanks for coming." I sat across from him, said nothing. Let him make the first move. Jason looked uncomfortable, which gave me a small, vicious satisfaction. He should be uncomfortable. He'd been sleeping with my wife for 3 months. "I'm not going to insult you with apologies," he started. "What I did was wrong. I knew she was married. I did it anyway. Then why am I here?" He pushed a manila envelope across the table. "Because Natalie's running a game that's bigger than you think, and you deserve to know what you're dealing with before you make any decisions." I didn't touch the envelope. "I'm listening." "How much do you know about Brandon Mitchell?" The name confirmation hit like a punch. "Enough. I've seen them together." Jason's expression shifted. Surprise, then something like respect. "You've been doing homework." "Good. Then you know she's seeing both of us." "At minimum." "At minimum," he agreed. "Open the envelope." I did. Inside were printed screenshots of text messages, bank statements, photos. I recognized Natalie in several of them, but there were other women too. Younger women, older women, all in similar poses, restaurants, hotel rooms, cars. What am I looking at? Brandon Mitchell runs what's basically a high-end escort service, except he doesn't call it that. He calls it arrangement facilitation. Married women looking for excitement, married men looking for discretion, young women looking for financial support. He matches them up, takes a cut of whatever money changes hands. My mouth went dry. Natalie's involved in this? Natalie's one of his star recruits. She started as a client. That's how she met me, through Brandon's network. But she's been recruiting other women, getting a percentage of their arrangements. Those cash withdrawals you've probably found? That's her cut. The room tilted slightly. I gripped the edge of the table. Jason continued, voice low and urgent. "I didn't know she was married when we started. Brandon told me she was divorced, that her husband had primary custody of the kids. By the time I figured out the truth, He trailed off. I was in too deep. But I'm done. I can't be part of this anymore. Why tell me? Why now? Because Brandon's escalating. He's pushing Natalie to bring in bigger clients, riskier situations. There's talk about video recordings, blackmail potential. I think he's building leverage on everyone in his network. Jason leaned forward. And because you seem like a decent guy who doesn't deserve what's happening to him. Your wife's not just cheating. She's running cons with a professional. I looked through the documents again. Bank transfers from accounts I didn't recognize into Natalie's personal account. The one I'd discovered. The one she thought I didn't know about. Spreadsheets tracking arrangements with first names and dollar amounts. Text messages between Natalie and Brandon discussing the new girl and percentage splits. You have more of this? Everything in that envelope, plus digital copies, dates, times, transactions. I've been documenting for weeks, ever since I realized what Brandon really was. Jason's jaw tightened. I'm a lot of things, but I'm not a criminal. What he's doing crosses lines I won't cross. You're sleeping with married women for money. I was sleeping with one woman who I thought was single. Past tense. I ended it 2 weeks ago. He met my eyes. Natalie doesn't know that yet. She thinks we're still on for our regular Thursday meetings. The pieces were falling into place, forming a picture so much worse than simple adultery. How many others? How many men? In Natalie's rotation, at least 4 that I know of. Brandon keeps the network compartmentalized, but I've picked up names. There's a lawyer named Steven, a real estate developer named Kyle. The others I don't know. 4 men. Minimum. Plus Brandon himself. My wife wasn't just unfaithful, she was a professional. What do you want from me? I asked. Nothing. I'm giving you ammunition. What you do with it is your choice. Jason stood, dropped cash on the table for his untouched beer. But if you're smart, you'll move fast. Brandon's got connections. Lawyers, cops, people who owe him favors. If he figures out you're building a case, he'll bury evidence and throw Natalie under the bus to save himself. He walked toward the exit, then paused and turned back. One more thing. That book club she goes to? It's real. But it's also where Brandon recruits. Half the women there are in his network. If you want witnesses, start with the ones who aren't involved. They've seen things. Then he was gone, leaving me alone with an envelope full of evidence that my marriage wasn't just dead. It was a crime scene. The Shell station sat 30 miles northwest of Charlotte, right where Route 16 dissolved into farmland and forgotten strip malls. I'd driven past it twice in the last week, always at night, always watching for Natalie's white Lexus. Tonight, I brought company. Jason sat in my passenger seat, silent except for the occasional direction. He'd insisted on coming after I told him about the GPS tracker I'd placed under Natalie's rear bumper 3 days ago. The little magnetic box had been pinging the same location every Tuesday and Friday night. This exact Shell station, 11 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. She's not buying gas, Jason said. It wasn't a question. Never once. I'd checked her credit card statements. No fuel purchases at this location. Ever. We parked across the street at a shuttered Dollar General. Lights off, engine running for heat. January in North Carolina meant 40 degrees and damp wind that cut through your jacket. 11:04 p.m. Her Lexus pulled into the far side of the lot, away from the fluorescent islands of the gas pumps. She didn't get out. How long does she usually stay? Jason asked. 2 hours, give or take. A black Escalade arrived at 11:11 p.m. Tinted windows, dealer plates. It parked next to Natalie's car, driver's side to driver's side, window to window. Jason leaned forward. That's Brandon's vehicle. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. You're sure? I've seen it 4 times. Same plates. He rotates vehicles, but that's his primary. We watched. Nothing happened for 6 minutes. Then Natalie's door opened and she moved to the Escalade's passenger side, climbing in quickly. The dome light flashed once. I caught a glimpse of her blonde hair, her black pea coat, then darkness. "What are they doing?" I asked. Jason pulled out his phone, tapped through several screens. Brandon runs his operations mobile. No office, no permanent location. He meets clients and recruits in parking lots, hotel bars, his vehicle. Harder to trace. So this is what? A business meeting? Probably. Jason zoomed in with his camera, snapping photos through my windshield. Could be dropping off cash. Could be recruiting updates. Could be... He stopped. What? Could be product delivery. My stomach dropped. Product? The videos. The blackmail material. Brandon stores everything on encrypted drives, distributes copies to his top recruiters for safekeeping. Insurance policy. If one person gets caught, everyone goes down together. I watched the Escalade, imagining what was happening inside. Natalie accepting a thumb drive with videos of herself, of other women, of God knows what else. Becoming complicit, becoming trapped. "How do you know all this?" I asked. Jason didn't look away from his phone. "Because he gave me a copy too, 3 weeks ago. Said it was mutual assurance. I've got footage of 6 different women on that drive, Derek, including your wife." The air left my lungs. "I haven't watched it," Jason added quickly. "I know what's on there from the file names, dates, initials, locations. I deleted it the day after he gave it to me, but..." He hesitated. "I made a backup first, just in case." "In case of what?" "In case someone needed evidence to take him down." We sat in silence. The Escalade's windows remained dark. A truck pulled into the gas station, filled up, left. Normal people doing normal things while my wife conducted criminal business 50 yards away. At 11:47 p.m., Natalie exited the Escalade, carrying a small padded envelope. She returned to her Lexus, placed the envelope in her purse, and sat there for another 3 minutes before starting her engine. Brandon left first, heading north on 16. Natalie waited, then pulled out southbound, back toward Charlotte. "Follow her or follow him?" Jason asked. I'd already made the decision. Him. We stayed 4 car lengths back, no headlights until we hit the main road. Brandon drove like someone with nothing to hide. Speed limit, turn signals, full stops. He took us deeper into the rural stretch, past darkened farmhouses and churches with gravel parking lots. Then he turned onto a private road marked only by a rusted mailbox. I killed the lights and pulled over. Can't follow him down there. Don't need to. Jason was already typing on his phone. I've got his location shared. He doesn't know I never turned it off after... He paused. After we were seeing each other. The phrasing caught me. Seeing each other? It wasn't just sex, Derek. At first, I thought Natalie and I had something real, before I figured out what she was actually doing. His voice carried an edge I hadn't heard before. Hurt. Genuine hurt. When did you figure it out? When she asked me to meet one of her friends. Said this woman was going through a rough patch and needed someone to talk to. Gave me her number, suggested I take her to dinner. He laughed bitterly. I thought Natalie was being generous. Didn't realize she was recruiting me as product. Did you meet her? The friend? Once. Coffee, not dinner. Woman named Angela. 32, married, 2 kids. Told me her husband traveled for work and she was lonely. I saw where it was going and backed out. He showed me his phone screen. Brandon stopped moving. Looks like he's staying put. The GPS pin sat at the end of the private road, surrounded by nothing but forest according to the satellite view. What's down there? I asked. No idea, but I can find out. Jason switched apps, Pulled up property records. Address is 4782 Hebron Church Road. Owner listed as Hebron Properties LLC. Registered agent is... He went quiet. What? Registered agent is a law firm. Caldwell and Pratt, Charlotte office. I knew that name. That's a criminal defense firm. Big one. Yeah. Jason kept scrolling. Property purchased 8 months ago. Cash sale, no mortgage, building permits filed for agricultural storage facility. He looked up. Wanna bet there's no agriculture happening down there? We sat with that for a minute. Then I made another decision. I'm going down there. Derek, on foot, just to see. You stay here, keep the engine running. That's insane. Probably. I was already opening my door. But I need to know what we're dealing with. If this is just a storage unit or if it's something worse. Jason grabbed my arm. If Brandon catches you, he won't. I spent 6 years doing night reconnaissance in Afghanistan before I became an analyst. I know how to stay invisible. That was a lie. I'd never been to Afghanistan. I'd spent my 20s in cubicles and spreadsheets, but Jason didn't know that. And the adrenaline pumping through my system made me feel invincible. Stupid. Reckless. Necessary. I grabbed my phone, switched it to silent, and stepped into the January cold. The private road was gravel and mud, rutted from recent rain. I stayed off the path, moving through the tree line where dead leaves muffled my footsteps. No moon tonight. Just darkness and the distant glow of what I assumed was Brandon's destination. It took 12 minutes to cover a quarter mile. The trees opened onto a clearing with a single metal building, maybe 40 feet by 60 feet. No windows. One roll-up door, one standard entrance. Security lights mounted on each corner, bathing the area in harsh white light. The Escalade sat parked near the entrance. Empty. I crouched behind a fallen oak tree, watching. No movement. No sound except wind through branches and the hum of a generator somewhere behind the building. Then the standard door opened. Brandon emerged with another man. Tall, maybe 6'2", wearing expensive casual clothes, designer jeans, leather jacket. They stood talking for a moment, their voices too low to hear, then both laughed at something. The second man handed Brandon a thick envelope. Brandon opened it, thumbed through what looked like cash, nodded his approval. They shook hands. The second man walked to a silver BMW parked in the shadows that I hadn't noticed before. He drove off, headlights sweeping past my hiding spot close enough that I pressed myself flat against the frozen ground. Brandon watched him leave, then pulled out his phone. He spoke into it. A call, not a text, then went back inside. I waited 5 minutes, 10. Nothing. My phone buzzed. Text from Jason. You alive? Yeah, one building. Brandon inside. Just saw him meet someone. Get out of there. 1 more minute. I crept closer, staying low, using the Escalade as cover. The generator noise was louder now, industrial grade. Whatever was inside required serious power. The standard door had a small window, head height. I risked a glance. The interior was divided into sections. The front area looked like an office, desk, filing cabinets, computer equipment. Beyond that, a soundproofed door with a keypad lock. And beyond that, my blood went cold. Through a second window in the soundproofed door, I could see what looked like a film set. Professional lighting, cameras on tripods, a bed with silk sheets, and mirrors. Everywhere. Ceiling, walls, angled to capture every possible view. I'd found Brandon's studio. I took 3 photos through that window before my hands started shaking too badly to hold the phone steady. Then I ran. Not carefully, not tactically, just pure flight through the woods back to where Jason waited in my car. Drive, I said, throwing myself into the passenger seat. He didn't ask questions, Just put the car in gear and got us back onto Route 16. Headlights off until we were a mile away. What did you see? He finally asked. I told him. The studio, the equipment, the obvious purpose of that soundproofed room. Jason's jaw tightened. That's where he films the insurance material, the videos he uses to keep everyone in line. Has Natalie been in there? He didn't answer immediately. Then, probably, if she's as deep as I think she is. I called my attorney at 7 the next morning. Patricia Brennan had handled my parents' estate planning, came highly recommended for family law. She listened to my 30-minute download without interrupting, then asked me to come to her office immediately. By noon, she'd reviewed every piece of evidence I'd compiled over 3 months. The text messages, the financial records, the GPS data, the photos from last night, Jason's testimony, which he'd agreed to provide in writing. This is beyond divorce, Patricia said, removing her reading glasses. This is criminal conspiracy, sex trafficking, potentially, blackmail, money laundering. You need to go to the police. Will they believe me? With this evidence? Absolutely. She tapped the folder. But Derek, you need to understand what happens next. This doesn't end with you and Natalie signing papers and splitting assets. This ends with arrests. Prison time. Your daughters will watch their mother go to jail. The weight of that settled over me like concrete. What about the other women? I asked. The ones Brandon recruited. Are they victims or criminals? Both, probably. Depends on their level of knowledge and participation. Some might get immunity for testimony, others won't. She leaned forward. But that's not your problem to solve. Your problem is protecting yourself and your children from the fallout. I went to the FBI that afternoon. The Charlotte field office, white building off Tyvala Road, security checkpoint, and federal seals on every wall. I brought copies of everything, kept the originals in a safety deposit box Patricia had insisted I rent. The agent who took my statement was a woman in her 40s named Special Agent Reeves. She listened to my story with the kind of neutral expression that came from years of hearing terrible things. Mr. Walsh, I'm going to be direct with you. What you've described is an ongoing investigation. I can't confirm or deny details, but I can tell you that we've been aware of Brandon Mitchell's activities for approximately 4 months. My stomach dropped. You've been investigating him? We have. Your wife's name has come up in our surveillance, along with several other individuals. She closed her notepad. You've done the right thing bringing this to us. But I need you to understand that you cannot, under any circumstances, confront your wife or Brandon Mitchell about what you know. Doing so could compromise our investigation and put you at risk. What am I supposed to do? Just go home and pretend everything's normal? For now, yes. We'll move as quickly as we can, but these cases take time to build properly. She stood, signaling the meeting was over. We'll be in touch within 72 hours. In the meantime, document anything new, but do not engage. I drove home in a fog. Emma and Lily were at my mother's house for the weekend, a sleepover I'd arranged before any of this, back when I still thought I could handle it privately. Natalie was in the kitchen when I arrived, cooking dinner like she hadn't been running a criminal enterprise out of our marriage. Hey, she said, smiling. I'm making that chicken thing you like. Thought we could have a nice quiet evening, just us. I looked at my wife, blonde hair pulled back, wearing my old college sweatshirt, barefoot in our kitchen, and felt nothing but revulsion. Sounds great, I said. We ate dinner, watched a movie. She fell asleep against my shoulder on the couch, and I sat there rigid, counting the minutes until I could move without waking her. At midnight, I went to my office and added one final entry to my evidence log. January 18th, final entry. FBI contacted, investigation ongoing, awaiting next steps. Personal note, I don't know who this woman is anymore. Maybe I never did. Maybe the Natalie I fell in love with never existed, and I've been married to a performance for 8 years. The worst part isn't the betrayal. It's realizing that while I was coaching Emma's soccer games and planning Disney trips and building what I thought was a life, she was building something else entirely. Something dark. Something I never saw coming. The girls are going to ask questions I don't know how to answer. How do you explain to a 6-year-old that her mother is a criminal? How do you protect them from the truth while also preparing them for what's coming? I don't have those answers yet. But I know this. I'm done performing too. Done pretending. Done protecting her from the consequences of her choices. Whatever happens next, I'm choosing my daughters. Everything else is just aftermath. The FBI moved faster than Agent Reeves had suggested. On January 23rd, coordinated raids hit Brandon Mitchell's property, his condo, and 4 other locations simultaneously. 17 arrests, including Natalie. I was at work when it happened. Patricia called me, told me to come get the girls from school immediately and take them somewhere safe. I picked them up early, told their teachers there was a family emergency, and drove to my brother's house 2 hours away. Emma asked why Mommy wasn't answering her phone. I told her Mommy had to help the police with something important and would call soon. That was 5 days ago. Natalie's being held without bail. The charges include conspiracy, facilitation of prostitution, blackmail, and money laundering. Her attorney, not one of Brandon's connected lawyers, but a public defender who looks overwhelmed, says she's cooperating with prosecutors. I've filed for emergency custody and divorce. Patricia says it's a formality at this point. No judge in the country would grant Natalie access to the girls given the charges. Jason Whitmore testified before the grand jury. So did 3 other women from the book club who weren't involved but had witnessed things. The case is airtight, according to Agent Reeves. I should feel vindicated, relieved. Something. Instead, I feel hollow. Last night, Emma asked me if Mommy did something bad. I told her the truth, age-appropriate version. Mommy made some very wrong choices and now she has to face the consequences. Grown-up consequences that are serious and sad. Is she coming home? Emma asked. No, sweetheart, not for a long time. Did you stop loving her? That question broke me, because the answer is complicated. I stopped loving who she became, but I'm grieving who I thought she was. The woman who never existed except in my imagination. I love you and your sister more than anything, I said instead, and that's never going to change. It's not the answer she wanted, but it's the only honest one I have. 3 months later, I'm sitting in my new apartment, smaller than the house, closer to my office, fresh start, watching Emma and Lily play with blocks in the living room. We've started therapy, all 3 of us, individual and family sessions. The therapist says they're resilient, that kids bounce back faster than adults. I hope she's right. Natalie pleaded guilty last week. 15 years, eligible for parole in 8. Brandon Mitchell got 25. The other participants got varying sentences based on their cooperation and involvement. I haven't spoken to Natalie since her arrest. She's written letters, dozens of them, but I've given them all to Patricia unopened. Maybe someday I'll read them. Maybe the girls will want to when they're older. But not now. Now, we're healing. I've learned something through all of this, something I wish I'd understood earlier. Trust isn't about believing the best in people. It's about knowing them well enough to recognize when something's wrong. I ignored every red flag, every inconsistency, every gut feeling that whispered, something's off, because I wanted to believe in the fairy tale. I chose comfort over truth. Never again. Emma looks up from her blocks. Daddy, can we get pizza tonight? Sure, baby, whatever you want. She grins and goes back to building. Lily mimics her, stacking blocks in a wobbly tower that will inevitably fall. And I watch them. These 2 perfect, innocent souls who deserved better than the hand they were dealt. And I make a promise. I will rebuild this. Not the marriage, not the illusion of the perfect family, but something real, something honest. A life where my daughters learn that actions have consequences, that integrity matters, that the truth is always better than a comfortable lie. It won't be easy. Some days, it won't even feel possible. But we'll do it together, one day at a time, one block at a time, building something that won't crumble the moment someone looks too closely. Because that's what love actually is. Not the performance, not the fantasy, but the hard work of showing up honestly, even when everything's fallen apart, especially then. The tower falls. Lily laughs. Emma starts rebuilding. And so do I.